to begin our final class. Welcome everyone to Global Leader. And we're not really going to have a class. We're going to have a kind of little checking in with all of you to make sure that uh, everything that you've had, every question you may have has been answered. Essentially, you're done for the semester. You handed in your final assignment yesterday, right? And I saw, I think Grayson's come in at night at 11:58 and 59 seconds. No, I'm just joking. Yeah, I'm just kidding. I know what it's like to be getting things in, at this time. So I want to make sure that you're all on track and that you did deliver your final assignment. And if you need to speak with me about anything, if you need, for example, any kind of extension that you have not received this semester, you're allowed one extension for the semester. You could be using it for your final assignment now, and I would provide you with an extension until this Friday or possibly even as late as Sunday. I have been doing that with some students. Some students have been really in need of that. And thankfully, I've got things worked out so students can immediately text me. And when I'm walking around in Toronto yesterday, as I was running errands, I was able to quickly respond to a lot of students on text and make sure that everybody is getting what they need. Hi, Ryan. Come on in. So, Cindy, you are the only one joining us remotely, and you do not need to stay unless there is anything that you would like to address. We will have a discussion if there's anything you want to discuss, but I will take my lead from all of you. And if you want to discuss until 11:45, um, I'm here, and so is Maureen. The only thing is, you may have to put up with some people from facilities coming in to move things around for the Board of Governors meeting that's going to be held in here tomorrow. So they have to move the couches and everything. They may show up at some point, so don't be alarmed if they do. So let's see. We have Cindy, we have Jazeel, Princess, Grayson, and Ryan has come in, and Maureen's here. So let me first say that it is always an honor to be teaching all of you through a time when it's a really difficult time in the world and in some ways difficult for students. And so I'm glad that I can be here to provide some help, direction, and knowledge and do what I love to do, which is teach. So tell me what you would like to know. If there's anything that you would like to, talk about right now, anything related to your final assignment, anything about grades, it's completely open. I will answer everything, and then we may end in 15, 20 minutes. Who knows? Okay, thank you, Cindy. Well, Ryan, we can still have the discussion, but I'm letting people. If you walk in, I know that there's going to be a good discussion. I just didn't know who was going to show up, and this is the first time in many years. You ready to play ball? Are you ready to get in the ring and let loose with some blows? Okay. This is the first time I think it might be in all the years I've been teaching where I've made the final assignment due before the final class. Usually it's just after, and so students will come in and they want to talk about the final assignment that's due in a few days. But I needed to do things earlier this year. So, what would you like to address? Got a microphone? I will shut some of the doors so that we have good audio. And Cindy, thanks a lot for your comment in the live chat. We're gonna, and maybe Maureen can also do a little update too. So why don't we do that, Ryan? Before you take the microphone but before you comment, why don't we follow our format as best we can, which is we start with an update on what's happening, in particularly with World Expo and the Global Class Alliance. or the club that Maureen has started with Sarah, and then we'll take it away.
Hi everyone. We had an update for this past weekend, Saturday. We were celebrating 1 year until the expo. So they talked about the different main pavilions they're going to have there. So the Japanese, I guess, creators that are showcasing something called like the signature pavilions, and each pavilion is based on different themes. We have like education, we have like connecting lives. So there's different themes for each one. I think like from what they were talking, like all of them, there's 8 of them. They're going to be really interesting. And then they also unveiled the official uniforms that people are going to wear for I believe 4 different types of events. So then there will be people who are there to like greet the visitors at the expo, and then there was one for officials, so probably like executives and the people dealing with the board. Um, then they had uniforms for housekeeping, and then they also had uniforms for just people like volunteers and who yep be there in general. Yes. So the uniforms were interesting because they were all made of materials that are like biodegradable. So that was interesting. They looked very nice and light. I mean, they were in the 3 colors of the SDGs. That's what they were presenting. It was red, blue, and green. So that's what they were, and then obviously integrated with white. And they just had an online event. So we had for like English speakers because it was in Japanese. They had someone like interpret the whole event, and then they had after they disconnected everybody from the Zoom call, it was they had something in like a celebration almost in the city or like at the venue. So that was interesting. And then in terms of the club, we this is today we're doing a promotion for the club in the pit. So that would be like 2 to 4 again, similar to last week. If any students are free and they want to come, just hang out or talk to other students about what we do here in the global classroom, that would be nice. If students are still interested to join the Discord channel that the server that we have, that's where we're going to update whoever's in a part of that in terms of events and probably meetings. Most of them might be virtual, depending on the students who are on campus for the spring summer semester. One of the events I've proposed is more of like a film night. So we'll probably stream a movie that has something to
I
do.
think we should show the trailer for 12th Fail.
Sure, we could
Oh,
we
this
could
is
do that.
inspiring. The film that you want to.
Right.
So we're making this up as we go along in the class right now, but this is all I think helpful and inspiring, and as things that you would want to know. So um, the movie that Maureen recommended that we present in the film club is called 12 Fail. I didn't know about it. It's an Indian movie, and I'm going to show you the trailer. I saw the trailer. I've read a bit about it. It sounds excellent, and it's high quality, and deserves distribution outside of India. But let me go over here and new tab to the right, and we'll go over to YouTube, and we'll put in 12th fail. Okay, 12th. Uh, oh, here it is. 12th fail official trailer. Yeah. Okay. And is it the second one? Okay. Okay, so no one's online right now. Cindy's gone. Thank you. She left a comment. That's fine. So I'm just going to run this for everybody here with good audio, and then for the students, if anybody's watching the recording, you can check in the saved live chat, and I will put this link in there shortly. Okay, but let's now enjoy this together, and I'm going to need the audio here. And let's see how this plays. We got it on main. So let's get the English. Hold on. So here we go. So the idea would be that what's the plan? You're going to show the film. We'll show the film and then maybe we'll build a global class around it and have the director or the actors as guests. I've done this before in other classes, so
So yeah, we
tell them what you're
can.
thinking.
Well, yes, definitely. We'll show the movie over here in this classroom, and then we'll have
Yeah.
maybe popcorn and different snacks and everything. DCSA will be able to help us with that. So we'll have like a little movie film night event, and then we can either have maybe Lord will be able to. We can try and get in touch with the actors, producers, directors, and try to get them in as guests, or even because this is based on a true story. So maybe even have the person who the story is based on maybe even join us for a little session.
Great
We don't know.
choice.
We're still
Yeah,
working it out as we
yeah,
go.
we're
But
working it out.
yep, different events for sure with the club.
Okay, so do any of you know of this film, 12 Fail? No? Okay, well, take a look at this. Hmm. I'm already starting to feel a little bit of the ooh, bumps. So we hope to show this film for film night, right? It's
So this will be among one of definitely the movies we can stream here in the global class. Yeah.
let me just come back here and okay, I'm not gonna worry too much about hold on. I'll come back and just freeze. Huh. Yeah, no one does. Glad we have the English translation. Yeah. I'm gonna leave it there. I think this is a good thing to keep up there for a final class. What's that? Unlimited motivate, Ryan. You got it. Smart guy. Ryan, you got the right head on your shoulders, that's for sure. Okay. So, anything else we need to update on before we have a little chat and then go from there? So the Expo, Global Class Alliance, 12 Fail, potentially the film club that you're thinking of.
Durham College does have a film club. So in the past, when I had my own Korean club here on campus, we'd done a collaboration kind of with the film club at the time. And like by Korean club, we'd done a horror movie night. So we'd done snacks as in Korean ramen, which was hot and it was winter time. So it was nice to kind of do that. So hopefully we'll reach out to the film club now and depending, I don't know who the president or who the members are, but then we should have more people join us when both of our clubs kind of promote the event. And then, yeah, maybe like potentially we could have different events like podcasts or, um, different other events that we could do as part of Global Classroom. So if anyone's interested to join, I have the QR code if you want to come scan. please feel free to. There's no like stress or force that you have to be a part of it. It's just something very casual, and just be able to participate in the events and just have fun, really.
Great. Okay. Well, why don't you go and take a few notes and let Ryan come up and you want to speak and anybody else, and then we're going to finish. But it's important that you all have a chance to speak if there's anything. She's going to put some notes down, and we'll run this as a more or less a normal class and make the resources available to you if you want them. But essentially, the semester is over. You've handed in your final assignments, or some of you may have extensions. So let's just make sure that everything is covered, and then we'll call it a semester. You want to come up and say a few things, Ryan, and talk about whatever is important. Maybe in the end, now that all the assignments are behind you and everything, and we might just talk about really, really meaningful things that are going to help you the most. The pressure's off.
I'm gonna be honest, Lon. I'm only at 1,200 words here still.
Okay, go ahead.
I didn't have anything particular I want to bring up yet, but like in my final reflection, I was writing about like the aspect of greed as a mentality, and
The
looking
which?
the aspect of greed as a
The aspect of greed.
yeah.
Yes, good.
So
Greed.
I kind of related that back to like some tyrannical figures we look at in history, Genghis Khan,
Yeah,
Napoleon, Stalin, guys like that.
yeah. The strong men who stay in power a little longer than they really should, to put it charitably.
It's interesting too because like I don't know, I started like my paper from the very beginning talking about how when man first fell from the garden, and how we fell down to earth, almost the land where we can kind of commingle with these forces which normally like wouldn't be allowed in the, I guess, whole unity of God, which like the kingdom of heaven is said to have kind of portrayed.
We're getting religious and spiritual pretty quickly. Philosophical. That's good. This is a global class.
I was able to combine like various different um also like religions and their perspectives of spirituality. Like for example, like in Hinduism, it has like concept of like subtle bodies, so basically bodies that exist outside the physical.
Hmm.
And for example, like in the beginning, man was said to be tempted with the first sin by eating from the tree.
Mm-hmm.
That also gave him free will. And because of that act, we live down here on earth, among all these forces which in some ways you can kind of see possess some of these figures, in almost a literal way, because like we almost think about these things as, oh yeah, you have a cloud of black smoke and comes over and possesses you, but most of the stuff is already inside the human psyche. So it's just almost like the expression of ego that is almost that like demonic or dark force, which is kind of alluded to in some of these passages.
Wow.
So
It's great. So are you trying to look at fundamentally what drives human beings in a way, what compels us for why we create civilizations, and what is the fundamental thing that we want, what we humans want?
I would I would say maybe it's a bit more about understanding actually the process in which we kind of develop these constructs of like society, and like I don't know, almost like what is the greater force acting on us? Because if we really believe like we're down here to learn some kind of lesson or whatever, then why wouldn't we be faced with these like, forces that are going to be like challenging or present challenges to you,
Hmm.
even if it's within your own self, right?
Sure.
Because man's greatest enemy is himself. So all you if you want to look for an enemy or somebody to compete with, or something to wrestle with to make you get stronger, just look in the mirror. You'll find tons there. So,
You are so on target, even in terms of what's being published right now, because just this week, a book has come out called "You Are Your Own Leader." That it is a professor from the United States who's been involved in the civil rights movement there, taught for a time at Harvard University, now at Princeton. I forget his name, but he's published a book, a series of essays called You Are Your Own Leader. And his view is if you want better leadership in the world, look at yourself first.
Yeah.
So you've just basically said that. And um, I want to make sure everyone has a chance if they want, but I do want to say to Ryan specifically that, you know, you've obviously done, as I would expect, some deep thinking, and that you really do have the capacity for that. And I highly encourage you to keep going in that direction.
Yeah.
And this kind of idea of, you know, what is important in our lives is such a critical question that I could ask any of you, and and it would all capture everybody's attention. We all want to know what we're supposed to be doing here on this planet
Yeah.
together.
And
We really are. So it's a tough question
yeah, and
to
even
answer.
like in the paper, I tried to like kind of allude to like almost like obviously in the global classroom we have the kind of third view of the Earth from the International Space Station that kind of
Yep,
makes you really realize the like unity between things and that things aren't so different even if they appear so.
there it is.
So even
Yep,
even when we like look at dictators, single.
there's the. Oh, is it coming?
I don't
Go,
know if it.
keep going.
Oh,
Yeah, try again.
yeah, maybe it's because of the sound.
Go ahead. Yeah,
There we go.
yep.
It's back. Um, yeah, I was saying like even though like we look at these guys like Stalin and these presumably bad guys from history as bad guys, I think like we shouldn't undermine still their importance they play in the overall story because history needs bad guys, history needs losers, history needs winners, history
Mm,
needs various different expressions of people,
mm.
So I don't know. It's almost like I I don't remember if I said this in this past reflection I just wrote or the one before, but I talked about how there's a concept that human beings can only really understand themselves and understand the shape that's within their own heart by looking at it in comparison to others. So, without if you were just in a universe by yourself, you wouldn't be able to learn anything because it's just you.
It's just you. Huh. Well, l- listen, let's figure out what is important in what Ryan just said so that you can take away today something that's going to be meaningful for you. So, why don't I put a little pressure on each of you just to kind of, make it feel like a normal class, which is I force the interaction a bit because I know that that's where the best learning happens. But Princess may want to say, "Why don't you come up? Yeah, come on up, okay?" And tell us what you want to tell us, and or Ryan, or tell Ryan what you want. Tell Ryan you've got the microphone.
When you were talking about like the reflection you wrote and you were talking about greed, something came to my mind. Um, I know this is it's a very different view, but I see that greed comes from a source of insecurity. Most greedy people are very insecure when you get to know them.
Hmm. The more you want, the more
Yeah,
insecure maybe you are.
yeah, because it
Yeah, the more you want.
trying to
Yeah.
and the thing with greed is not just about like physical wealth. Like the first thing people think of greed is wealth, power. Greed can come in a lot of forms and a lot of ways, even in relationships. Like, let me give you an example. When I was young, okay, I'm putting myself out here now. When I was young, I wasn't good at making friends. I wasn't good at talking to new people. So I had this best friend, and we always hung out. Like after school, I'll go to her place. Like we're always hanging out.
It's in Nigeria.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's in Nigeria. Sure.
and I noticed that I didn't like the fact that she also had other friends because it felt like they were taking away the time. And I remember we had this big argument, and she's like, you're always so greedy with my time. And we're so young, but there are times like I actually sit down and think about it, and I'm like, okay, yeah, that actually like showed like greed, because I was like, you're all mine, like because you're the only one I have.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
it was actually very selfish of me. Like I've learned from that, right?
Mm.
But I it kind of rang in my head that greed comes from a deep source of insecurity. That's why I'll give some examples, like some leaders, like political leaders that
Mm-hmm.
came from a very bad place. Now you will normally you'll be like, oh, if you're coming from this place and you have this power, why don't you help like the people? But no, because of that fear, because of that insecurity, they're like, I never want to go back there.
Yeah.
They're so focused on me,
Yeah.
and it comes from a place of fear of not being able to feel safe. So I feel like for like we should also like do self reflections and be like, where in my life am I being greedy? Right? Like it can be with your love. Some people are greedy with their love. Some people don't show compassion, right? Because it manifests in different ways. So it's like an encouragement to, take time to reflect. How am I being greedy? Like, is it money? Am I so money focused that I've lost the importance of life? Like, I know we are making sacrifices to be here to make a better future, but if you're so focused on me, money, me, finances, it's so I won't say you're greedy, but you're in the threshold of greed.
Isn't it kind of lonely too when it's always about yourself? Kind of a lonely life, isn't it?
Yeah,
Sort of.
it's
Yeah.
very lonely because you're going to chase people away.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. You know, you're demonstrating once again what many students have said in reflections and emails and communication with me, that they're learning so much from listening to other students, the ones watching the recordings. You would be surprised, Princess, how what you've just said or have said previous classes is resonating with other students more than if I say it, because I'm older and I'm just from here, Canada. You're from another part of the world and you're young. And so people are listening and wondering, what can they see of themselves in you? They feel closer to the knowledge because it's coming from you than from me.
I think that's one thing I really like about the class, because it's like when it's the teacher, you just expect the teacher to know. So it's not, we don't really take it as
Yeah.
important. We don't like, we take it for granted most times. I won't lie, even myself. Like your teacher is always there, like you can ask any questions, but when you see like your other classmates and you see how they're thinking, it kind of challenges you because you don't want to be a loser. You don't want to look bad. You know, like yeah, I'm like, oh, these guys were all like in
Yeah.
the same group. I should. It kind of motivates you to
Yeah.
do better and think better.
Yeah. Yeah.
If I jump in?
Yeah. Go.
I
Go.
don't know. I wanted to point out something which I feel like is a key component to I feel like maybe in the last, few hundred words of reflection, I should probably tie this in because I feel like maybe this is something I might have overlooked myself. But I feel like when analyzing these things like greed and like stuff like this, we should always try to keep ourselves objectively as possible because like to to be in all fairness, we need that to continue, or not maybe greed specifically, but we need ego. You need some part of it to keep going and keep pushing forward. You gotta have that drive, that almost that fire, right?
Hmm.
But you let it get out of control, and you might burn the whole house down. So,
That's right.
but
You might burn more than just the house.
yeah, is like Mike Tyson said about about boxing, and about the concept of fear. He said that I use fear as my friend. You can use it to cook your food, or it could just burn down everything and
Yeah.
basically
Carl, are you familiar
destroy.
with who Mike Tyson is?
It's out of
Mike
control.
Tyson. Let's throw in a little log onto this fire right now, because I know a thing or two, because I like boxing or follow martial arts and things. Um, where would Mike Tyson say his greatest battle has been? In the ring or with himself?
With himself. Yeah.
And why would that be? What has Mike Tyson been battling
His
for a lot
ego.
of his life?
Ego.
And more than that, some mental health stuff, serious stuff.
And I
Yeah.
think that's all ego along. It's
So
all one concept. All under the same sun.
yeah,
Like the thing is, I agree with what you're saying, but we should also be careful with that word because ego has become like a sort of stigma. When you hear ego, it's always associated with the negative. But God gave us emotions for a reason. Emotions is reaction to stimuli. It's telling you something is wrong. Now, it's what you decide to do with that emotion that matters, right? Our ego, we need ego because you need to have self worth. You need to have self love to avoid putting yourself in certain situations and relationships. So, ego is very important, but you should also remind yourself that although self love is very important, right? Human beings were made to be a social being. We can't stay alone,
Mhm.
right? And I was talking to one of my friends, and I was like, people focus on self love, and they're like, oh, self love, but you can build your self love by loving people around you, right? If you're so focused on yourself, you would eventually become selfish. Like it's our nature. There are times that you're so stuck up in your head that you forget about other people. You're just focused on you, and it becomes toxic. That's when you start becoming egocentric. You're so focused on you. So in a way, you're trying to protect yourself and be all like, if this person talks, there's people that you meet that you pride, but it's not pride, it's just ego. Like you're so you've elevated yourself so much that you've isolated yourself. So that's when it starts becoming negative, and that's when it starts becoming an issue. But ego should not be a negative word because it's very important for our survival as humans.
Mhm.
Yeah.
and we do have to worry about our survival as humans on this planet, don't we?
Mhm.
These days and into the future, more and more.
I'm gonna say one thing, and then I'm gonna
Anybody,
see
and then
see
anybody else can come
to
in.
tag it over here because I know he's probably got some stuff.
It's okay.
related
Yeah,
to it.
are you okay to just listen to the two? Because it's very good, But you're welcome to go and speak. Okay, so they know that. So just keep going, guys. Say what you got to say.
I was just gonna say that, like, you said, like, it's God given. I think that, like, to extent, like, the emotions and like mentality are because, like, He allowed like their being into existence, or at least allowed something else to create it. But like, initially the story is like, the adversary
Hmm.
tempted man with, like, oh, eat from the tree of knowledge, right? Um, and I think the like higher lesson there, especially around ego, is that, and this is a concept that Buddhists kind of adopt as well, is to be mindful of the choice you have, and by
Interesting.
mm,
It's just a bird.
uh,
Flew
and
in. It's my favorite pigeon that comes onto the subway with me from High Park in Toronto and takes the subway with us, and then it gets off at Ossington. It's my pigeon. It's the mutant, the evolutionary mutant. But anyways, it's okay. Chernobyl. Oh, that's uh, that's another problem. Chernobyl. No, not Chernobyl. What's that? Fukushima. Oh, that's terrible too. No, this is another kind of thing. But keep going, Ryan. Yeah.
I was just saying, like, Buddha, I think it was that he abstained from having any pleasure for a very long time, and that was like a big kind of concept for him to kind of really contemplate on and understand, like the aspect of not instinctively, I guess, reaching out and taking something that you might find desirable or whatever, but to actually, I wouldn't say starve yourself, but to give yourself a bit of um, maybe self discipline by waiting for the opportunity which you want to come along, which is
Regulate yourself. Show some self
self
control,
control.
some restraint.
Yeah,
Mhm.
This is very important
yeah.
as a leader too, Ryan.
So I, I
Very.
I I think it's very interesting how, like, if the adversary did present us with ego, then it's up to us to kind of view it objectively and say, okay, this might come from the bad guy, and though it, or so we call the bad guy or whatever.
The
We
adversary,
usually,
let's say.
yeah,
Your adversary.
yeah. So, but I think it comes down to us. We still have free will to choose. Your soul is still inside you. One of my favorite things from Tupac Shakur that he said was that I can look in the mirror and look directly into my own soul. It's not sold. I didn't sell it. It's still within me. I still feel it connected to my body. And that's where my greatest inspiration and insight is. So. But when he said, like, I could look directly into my own soul, it's there, it's still connected to my body, I still feel it. That, like, really resonated with me. So
I think we need to talk about Tupac,
Yeah.
don't we? But maybe you could educate me on why he is such an important figure and why he is no longer with us.
you talked about the Illuminati too much.
Well, so you come in, you've got a Tupac T-shirt on,
Oh,
and
actually,
Ryan
look at
is,
that.
and Ryan,
God works in weird ways.
you know, um, obviously from what Ryan has said, that Tupac, as a global leader, was an important figure and still is. And can you tell us more about why you would have his T-shirt with you?
I think I don't really know much about him. I like his songs though.
Yes.
But the thing I liked about him, and he and a Nigerian artist, you should know him, Fela Kuti.
Fela Kuti.
Yeah, Fela. The best things I loved about them is that they did not care. And it's a lesson I have learned, especially this semester with decisions. It's it's actually it was a trait I really admired, especially in my elder sister. There were times where she wanted to make certain decisions, and my family was all no. As a single lady, and she was like, "No, this is what I want to do, and this is the best thing for me, and this is the best thing for people around me." And people like Fela and Tupac, they said this in their music. Their music shook nations because of the message he had. I remember this song Fela sang, Zombie. It was a very big song, Zombie. So he was talking about like the government and how like people are mute. And at this point when he was this is what made him such a bias. At this point when he was producing these songs, and because at least freedom of speech wasn't really a big thing, right? People were
Mhm.
scared to talk.
Mhm.
A coup had happened, and it was a military regime. And if you know anything about the military, especially Nigerian military, they are ruthless. They are ruthless, like to the
Mhm.
core. So for him to have had that bravery, it wow. And he was persecuted for what he was saying, but he still continued because he said people have to stand up. People have to do something. And that was like how his music was just motivational. Like I listen to it sometimes when I'm going to the gym. I'm
This is
like,
Tupac, but
yeah,
not. You have. I'm going to get a picture of
Fela,
Fela Kuti.
yeah,
Okay, can you spell his name for us?
Fela.
Okay, so Google Images. I'll go over this. I'll get a nice picture of him up here. Okay, F
Felakuti.
T I.
Yeah, Fela Kuti.
Okay. Wow, there he is.
Yeah, this was his.
Okay, which keep going. I'll put something up
You
here.
got some insight. I know you got some insight.
So it was like things like that. It's just something I admire because it takes a lot of bravery for you to say no. And people don't understand. Like it takes a lot of bravery and humility. It might look like pride, but it takes a lot of humility because you, yeah,
That's pretty powerful. That's pretty powerful. keep, keep going.
it takes a, It takes a lot of humility. Like you have, because he wasn't just doing this for himself. He looked around and he saw that his people were in bondage, and the only people that could save them were themselves, and they weren't doing anything. So it was like it's so beautiful to see that level of leadership, although it looked very radical and crazy, but it stirred people up. It moved the nation and nations around.
So you've been in a course this semester called Global Leader, and the conversation is now coming to individuals that you believe are very good symbols of global leadership. And they are people that you have mentioned, not me. This is powerful. And you're helping us to understand something as well from your own culture that can make others around the world listen to the importance of the Nigerian voice. There's so many important voices all over the world. Who would be some others besides Tupac and Fela Kuti?
We're obviously
You
overlooking
you
Muhammad
think
Ali.
would be very good examples to remember as we finish this semester that you could take with you to admire for their leadership qualities where they displayed that courage. That courage. I take it that he's no longer with us as well.
So, but he has a shrine. There's a shrine dedicated to him.
And was he killed the way Tupac was?
Um, no, actually, that's the thing. They tried to assassinate him so many times.
Wow.
People are not sure if he was assassinated, but he smoked a lot and like he was a radical.
Yeah, yeah.
So people are not really sure of the death, but he wasn't he wasn't killed. Like no,
But he was prepared, I'm sure, to give his life.
yes,
Think of the incredible bravery of individuals when they lead and they're prepared to give their lives. And probably the most important figure in, in contemporary history would have to be Mahatma Gandhi. Now, we may think of Martin Luther King Jr., many people talk about him and his assassination, but he was inspired by Mahatma Gandhi. And Mahatma Gandhi was inspired by Ashoka, another leader from India that goes back in history. But can you imagine what it would have been like that moment in 1947, was it, when Mahatma Gandhi is there in his, you know, um, what would he have been wearing? Very little, very modest, very humble. And let me just make sure that this is, hold on, I gotta bring this back so the person's watching this will not be, here we go. Okay. Uh, Imagine this kind of humbleness. He's walking to greet people in India. I forget the name of the city where this took place. He has struggled and is hoping to unite the two conflicting religions in that part of the world, Islam and Hinduism. He wants to unite them into one greater India. This is before Pakistan was created. It's where all the Muslims would go and the Hindus would stay in India. He's going to greet his supporters. And out of the crowd comes a fanatic, a Hindu fanatic. Takes a gun, walks right up to him in front of everybody, point blank range, shoots him in the chest. I don't know how many times, and killed him right then and there. Mahatma Gandhi. How often we've seen this. But I guess the thing I would like you to think about is there anything in your life that you're going to do or that you're doing that is so meaningful to you that you'll be prepared to give your life because you know that it's going to help others?
Fulfill your
Would you
destiny.
be prepared? Would you be prepared to do that and be prepared to stand? I'm ready to do that because I know that this example I'm leading by is meaningful and it's not about me. It's about them. It's about all of us. Mahatma Gandhi did, no question about that.
sounds like
I
Jesus.
suspect that Fela Kuti had a bit of that. Tupac, probably, although there's different stories here, but these are people who were killed
Yeah.
in the end, murdered. That sounds like Jesus. Yeah. Well, so I'd like you to just think about that. And it was Richie, say what you got to say.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So on the topic of ego, um, I think it's a good topic to discuss because I think it's a big problem in the world currently as it is. There's so much conflict and that has a lot to do with ego. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Ego.
one thing I wanted to point out was maybe there are leaders that didn't have a big ego and made a lot of difference in the world. Leaders who you don't know about. Um, so there's a guy called Patrice Lumumba. People from Africa may know about him. Maybe someone like Lon's age may know about him, but he was essentially the first prime minister of the Democratic Republic of Congo,
Mhm.
and he was assassinated by the the Belgian was it the Belgian the king of Belgium essentially.
Oh, yeah. The Belgians had a lot of interest in the Congo for their resources,
Yeah,
people, and that's. Please keep going.
yeah, and he's not someone you would say is very famous today. Although what he did, um, I'd say, has been so impactful because what he said came true. Today in Congo,
Yes.
it's a war zone. And why it's a war zone? Because of the rare earth elements.
The which
That-
elements?
Rare earth elements. So essentially,
Spell it if you want to spell it. We'll pronounce it.
okay, elements like cobalt, plutonium.
Oh, sure, the minerals and
Minerals,
natural
yeah.
elements for
Yeah.
our cobalt being a huge natural resource in the Congo that we need
Yeah.
for our batteries.
Yeah. So
Batteries. Where do you think? Here's a battery. Where do you think the cobalt comes from?
yeah.
Inside here, from the mines of the DRC, Democratic Republic of Congo.
Yeah. And
Sure.
yeah, so Congo is, it's full of resources. Cobalt is just one of them, and it's just become popular because of the rise of electronic vehicles and
There it is.
such technologies in,
The
in
arrow
that.
there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, true. So
Great point,
yeah, the
Richie.
conflict right now, yeah, it's fueled by the demand for electric vehicles, and what Precious Lumumba said when he was fighting for the rights for his country. He said that like essentially Congo is one of the wealthiest countries in the world, and the citizens will probably never gain from the resources that it has because of the colonial powers. The colonial powers today have changed. They're not countries anymore; they're corporations. So it's so evident what he said, and it all has all to do with ego. Greed. They could probably share revenues with the country, but they just don't want to. Yeah.
So Richie, for example, going forward in your life, in your career, and you fully understand this problem. What can you do about it?
I think so. When it gets to these political topics, especially when it involves countries in Africa, it becomes tricky. But one of the best things that we as Africans, I know we're good at doing is just essentially sharing the story.
Hmm.
Yeah. Social media has been so impactful in Africa because the story moves faster and people, kind of very quick to reacting. So like, generally people don't trust the government. So yeah, so like when they hear something's going wrong, they'll react. So yeah, I'd say if I wanted to do something about that problem, I'd do something that tells a story about it.
It tells a story.
Yeah,
It tells an accurate story with good information.
yeah.
It's great. Thanks. Yeah.
Like from what you're
Go
saying
ahead. Yeah.
about telling the story, like that's very important, right? And I won't like that helps. But we are Africans. We know our people, and you know that I'll be very honest. I know this sounds controversial, but if there is any change that is going to happen in Nigeria and Africa as a whole, I was telling my uncle this. I said, you need someone that is strong, not just like, not just, okay, yeah, you have to be like strong at heart, strong spiritually, because when they want to attack you, it's not just physical assassination. They go to dark.
Mhm.
You need that, right? But because you're so stubborn, okay, let me give you an example. 2020 during the SARS movement. So SARS was an
SARS?
SARS
SARS, the before COVID. SARS, the
during COVID.
pandemic?
No,
Oh, SARS during
the
COVID.
unit. They were killing the citizens.
Okay, so I'm thinking of SARS, which was a infectious disease, SARS, and you're talking about
SARS.
SARS being
Something anti-robbery squad. I can't remember the first, but it's an acronym.
it's an acronym, and it's for a squad of individuals who are
Yeah,
opposing the
anti-robbery.
government, or
No. They work for the government.
oh, they work for the government.
Yeah.
Okay, in Nigeria,
Yes, not the SWAT. They look like the police, but like,
paramilitary. We sometimes and they have weapons, and they're
yes,
enforcing the government. We call
yes,
these paramilitary
yeah,
militias. Ooh, I'm not
yes.
sure I'm liking this group.
So,
Okay, now I understand
let
who
me
they
just
are.
tell you,
They are an
the-
infectious disease. Sorry, but that's not a nice thing to say. Go ahead.
But it's true though,
Yeah.
because there was a point in Nigeria where there was a lot of robbery. So they made this squad, and they go like undercover,
Yeah.
and they catch armed robbers, right? And it worked for some time. Then people stopped robbing, right? Now you've heard of Yahoo G scam fraud, like the online fraud. You
Yes.
heard of it a lot in Nigeria, right? Like,
Nigeria, many other countries. But yeah, we do hear about Nigerian frauds
yes.
here, you know.
So
Yes,
they
we
took
do.
it on themselves to go after fraudsters because they said it's a type of robbery. But the problem was they didn't go after fraudsters, they went after young men.
Hmm.
So there's a point they arrested my brother, my elder brother. And we were so scared because most times when they arrest these young men, they kill them.
Wow.
So people were dying and disappearing. And it became scary because as a guy, you have to always have like low cut and dress all. If they see you with like the locks or the earring, or they'll be like, oh, you're a Yahoo boy, enter the car. They'll take you to the ATM. You will give them all your money. If you fight with them, they can shoot you on the
It's
spot.
terrible. So they're working outside of the law completely. So
Yes.
they're accountable to no one except, well, their own power, their own, under the guise of doing the government's business, but really they're outside the. That's terrible. Your
Very-
brother, is he okay?
Oh yeah. But
Good.
we had to give him like a lot of money to like bail him out.
Whoa.
And we asked him, oh, what happened? So he was on his way back to school in the bus. So they stopped the whole bus and told all the young men under the age of 50 to come out, and took them to the station.
I have an
Thank you
inquiry.
for. I hope that. Well, first of all, this is being recorded, and for any students who end up watching the recording, we may work this into some of the videos we do to promote. This is outstanding education for all of us, coming straight from a person who's gone through and talking about corruption, about the being a victim of this, and educating us about the way things work in your country.
And that was the iceberg.
What's that?
That was just the beginning.
Well, what's under the tip of the iceberg
Oh
here?
my goodness.
Why don't you
So,
tell us more about what's in the iceberg? Because what we want to understand is ultimately, let me help you. What are you all going to do about this? kind of thing.
That's
That's
what
what
I
I
was.
was,
Like,
that's what I was going
eventually, okay?
to.
I'm just putting it out there for you. This is a global leadership class. You're hearing stories about injustice, cruelty, corruption, abuse of power. These are things that happen all over the world.
Yes.
What will you do in your life to ensure that these things don't happen? That's something you have to think about. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. So
Can I put in an inquiry? Just like one question, maybe we should think about. Um, I don't know. I feel like in these situations, like we all often look as like Lon mentioned like Mahatma Gandhi and stuff like
yeah.
who advocates nonviolence and stuff like that. But like I don't know when it comes to these type of people who are kind of just like doing whatever they want and taking advantage of the citizens of the community. Like it almost seems like the only rational, well, I wouldn't say necessarily rational, but only alternative option is when you're opposed against a villain is to almost like be the better villain in that situation because the
I'm coming there.
the
So
hero won't do anything.
this was just the beginning. And mind you, while all this was happening, this was at the beginning of the pandemic. And because I wrote my last reflection, I wrote about the pandemic and the effects. And during this time, Nigerians didn't even care about the pandemic. We're still going to the market, doing our own thing. It's still a leader died. That the leaders were like, okay, lockdown. But even in the lockdown, the SARS was still operating, right? So people got angry and they went to Twitter, right? And we started tweeting, and before you know it, it was trending for months. Now, during September, October, the youth, do you know why this was such a miraculous thing? Because first of all, the pandemic had already united the world in its own way, right? And Nigeria as a country, we love ourselves, but there's always like argument. We never see eye to eye. This was the first time in years that Nigerians came together. Like the roads were blocked, the toll gates, like the government operations, the citizens shut down everything. School was shut down. They were like, if we see any government officials or your child or anything, you're dead. That's how they pushed the youth. That's how far they pushed it. So things escalated when there was a guy that was tweeting, right? He took it up on himself and was tweeting. And that afternoon he tweeted, "Oh, we are in the protest grounds and they're throwing tear gas at us." And he was taking the picture. They killed him like 5 minutes after he had tweeted. His fiancee found out through Twitter that he was dead. Now, Nigerians lost it. Everybody was angry. The government, like, even they couldn't even, they told, like, the president wanted to address the issue and he was like, you should stop the violence,
Mm,
please.
mm.
We just told them, remove the units, end the unit. It's not that hard. But they're gaining money from them too, right? So because of that money, because of that greed and that corruption, they didn't care about who was dying. Now this is where there is this lady DJ Twitch. She's a DJ. Now this is where, like, when you're talking about leadership traits, like it could be from anybody.
DJ Twitch,
Yes.
a lady. I think I know where this is. Is this an example of strength? Is
Strength,
it coming?
bravery,
Good, good, good,
leadership.
good. Okay, because this is what we want too. We want the role models. We want the strength. So now we're talking about DJ Twitch. Keep going. Yeah.
So there was this, because here's the funny thing. My sister and I, we were going for the protest. I was part of the protest. And that particular Sunday evening till today, we still celebrate it every, not like celebrate it, but it's a date, it's a dark date for Nigeria. Till today, 2010 20th of October on the 2020, right? The people were doing a peaceful protest. Peaceful protest meaning there was church, like people were singing praise. Like we just gathered and closed the toll gates. Now the toll gates had been closed for months, so the government are losing billions, right? Now that evening, I told my sister there a tweet came up from the Lagos government. They said, "Everyone, there's a lockdown. We don't want to see anyone outside." That looked very suspicious. That means school by 2 p.m., said by 6 p.m., everyone should be indoors. That was a warning. But like at this point, people are angry. We're protesting, right? I told my sister, let's not go today. I have a very bad feeling about this because you don't just do something like that. People still went out for the protest. And while they were doing the peaceful protest on the Lekki toll gates, soldiers surrounded the Nigerian citizens and started spraying bullets.
Whoa.
Now, DJ Twitch, she was in the protest and she was the only one on live. She was like the whole thing was happening live on
So
Instagram.
she was streaming this.
Yes.
DJ
And
Twitch was streaming this.
a soldier went off it right, switch it off. She was like, this is where things were. This is where Nigerians got heartbroken. This is where our trust in the government finally broke. You know when things like that are happening, they started singing the national anthem and waving the flag to show
Yes.
you how
Of course,
peaceful it
of
is. So
course, of
everyone was
course.
on their knees singing national anthems and they were still shooting.
This is very moving, and I have a question. What happened to DJ Twitch when she was live streaming? This is an example of something Richie sort of was referring to, which is the desire to speak and tell the accurate story to everyone. We have a young woman. Is she young? Really
Yes.
young? She's live streaming this protest. And as she's live streaming, a member of the paramilitary force,
No,
SAR,
the military.
the military,
This
comes,
is the
and he
soldiers.
had a weapon.
They all had guns.
What happened at that point to her?
At that point, people gathered her to protect her because of our connection, like music, the entertainment industry, right? She had connections outside the country. So people gathered, like she was in the middle of hundreds of people, so they couldn't move to get her.
But
Kind of, but she, because from the beginning of the protests, she was the one like spearheading it, right? People online, of course, all the she and Fowls. Fowls is a rapper in Nigeria. I love him. He's very funny. Fowls, yeah, he's a rapper in Nigeria, and two of them like, because he's also a lawyer, right? So he was like, this is just basic. You're removing the basic right of life from people. So they were fighting against it, right? Now they couldn't go after Fowls because Fowls' father is very high in like he's a son, so it's like presidential executive level. So they can't touch his child, right? But in a Twitch came from bottom. So she has nobody. She built herself. So it was like people are like, oh, you're trying to shut her up. And the assassin, even after the protests, there's a way the people snuck her out because of the help. Not just now, mind you, this whole SARS thing that was happening, DJ Twitch was also an enemy of the government at this point because, during COVID, there was relief given to people. Now, there was relief given to the Nigerian government, but they stuck it up in the warehouse and didn't give to anyone. So people were dying from hunger. So she and other people also exposed these officials.
do you know what DJ Twitch is doing that is essential to a free, civil, sophisticated society? We do it here, but not quite like that. But this is essential in a free society, and it is essential to global leadership. She is doing what journalists, the best, are supposed to be doing, is they courageously expose injustice and corruption. In this case, she was live streaming this event. Think of the power of communication here. I suspect that one reason why the military did not shoot her right then and there was because it was being live streamed.
Yes.
Think of what you are part of in your generation today. The technology that you have at your fingertips to be able to communicate to the rest of the world and do it live and not be shut down is a great tool for you to use to ensure that you're heard and others are heard. You mentioned that she had friends in high places. Perhaps that helped her later afterwards. I take it she's still alive.
Yeah, she had to run from the country.
Okay, so she's fled.
Yeah.
She's essentially become a refugee, a political refugee. We have many in Canada. many in around the world who flee. Soon we're going to have climate refugees. What's that? Hightail it out of Dodge. Exactly. Hightail it. Come to another country. Come to part of the world where you'll be safe and you.
Yeah.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
Absolutely, but this is part of our identity as Canadians. But my point to you for sense of global leadership is what Princess is telling us is immensely helpful and instructive, and I thank you for sharing this with us because this is well, this is exactly where these classes should always go. We start and we come to some place that's fabulous with all of you. Then we can really learn. But the lesson here I think you need to think about is think of the power of that live stream, of the tools of communication. And if you use them wisely, you may be able to make things better. This is new in human history. The ability to live stream a protest on probably YouTube, Instagram. We live stream classes now, and we could be on Instagram, we could be on Discord, but this is a great tool. Anyways, please think about that power of communication. I don't think that she would be alive right now. I don't think she would have survived that encounter with a armed member of the Nigerian military who is directly confronting her with a very powerful weapon and who probably had many others like him who had sprayed those bullets earlier, but she was live streaming. Remarkable.
And it was used as evidence.
And it was used as evidence.
Yeah, because the citizen reported it to UN, and it became because it's basic human rights, and the government denied everything. But they said this was what the government said. They were like, "Oh, we don't know of the unit. We don't know what's going on," and they said the people that were in that video had the Nigerian army uniform, and the people were waving the Nigerian flag and singing the Nigerian anthem, begging.
Remarkable. Think, for example, of something else that has happened over these last years in terms of the use of technology, the use of a camera, the use of a live stream, for example. One of the most notorious cases was in the United States not too long ago when there was a police officer in an American state who knelt on the head of a black man beside a car and actually knelt on his neck, I'm sorry, and killed him. He suffocated him. Had there not been a person taking pictures at that point, I think there was video too. This is the Derek Chauvin case, the officer who was eventually, come on in, you can start, we were prepared. Had that officer not had to deal with these images in this video in his criminal trial, he would not be sitting in a jail cell now for first-degree murder for the rest of his life. A white man who knelt on the neck of a black man and killed him. How often this has happened in history? We call it slavery, but there were no cameras then, no live streaming then. It's different. I'm not saying the world is going to be great, but you do have a tool.
Yeah.
DJ Twitch understands this. Thank you for that example. I just want to make sure that as we talk about these things, I can help bring it back to global leadership for you because our conversation could go in many, many directions with this incredible story. You know, we essentially have, if we're doing this as a normal class, 15 minutes left. So you want to wrap it up? Richie, you want to say anything to? You okay? Yeah, Grayson, you good?
Something on
Okay,
the
and then Jazeel, are you okay? Okay,
ego.
Ryan, why don't you finish up? Okay, and then we're gonna wrap it up. Okay, good stuff.
I just want to add one last thing on like the concept of ego, which I felt was important. And I don't know, I think that we tend to forget sometimes that we are human, and things that you know these things matter. Connection with other people, connection with the earth, connection with your environment, and just overall awareness and finding some kind of unity or common understanding between things. But I think for that very reason, it's also important that we understand that it's not important that you become a hero in your lifetime, or become a villain, or whatever you turn into is not important. The important thing is that you're being authentically what you feel you are meant to be. And I feel like with that, in your spirit, whatever destiny is meant to unfold for you will transpire, regardless of any other factors being at hand, because there's always some greater force out there. And even if you feel like, um I don't know, you've lost something that you can't get back, it's never the case. Everything in the universe can always be done and undone, in a sense of um spiritual growth,
Yep. There are second chances. There are third chances.
Mhm.
But I'm going to end with a little bit of an uncomfortable truth for you to think about. It's not in any way meant as a criticism, Ryan. It's only to open everybody up to something that I think Richie and Princess and Fela Kuti and DJ Twitch can teach us. Africa is a very, very big continent, hugely important in the story of humanity. The fact is, science tells us we all come from Africa in the way the world has evolved. And we have evidence. Even Charles Darwin was predicting we would find early fossils of humans in Africa. And he was doing that 150 years ago, and we found them. When we talk about leadership, there's a step that maybe you and we in North America need to take. And that is, yes, we need to be authentic to ourselves. Yes, a good leader is someone who is true to himself or herself. But then you got to walk that bridge over to the rest of the world and say, it's about my connection with everybody else. Now, we happen to come from, in this part of the world, Ryan, largely driven by American materialism and consumerism, and Canada has fallen behind or fallen into line with that. We sleep with the elephant, as Justin Trudeau's father said, Pierre Trudeau. We are on the border with the biggest superpower culturally in the world, 10 times our population. So there's a lot of influence there from the US as there is around the world. And individualism, the idea that it's all about me in the end, authentic me, will probably make you the type of leader that will not be able to win the hearts and minds of others. Good leadership, the best, is when you can win the hearts and minds. Perhaps Nelson Mandela might be an example of that, but there are many others. I think that Richie and Princess have demonstrated to us through these stories that there is a type of leadership, ultimately, that is about connecting with the rest of the world. So we need to be authentic to ourselves, which is what Tupac was, I'm sure, and what Fela Kuti was. But then these are people who are fighting for others, who are doing things for others. They care about others in a way more than they care about themselves. Think about that, okay? Because what you're focusing on is yourself only. That's not enough.
Well, can I end with one note?
Okay? And it's not meant as a criticism. I'm talking about myself. I'm talking about this
Yeah.
part of the world we come from. We can learn from that African perspective that he has shared with us and she has. It's important. Yes.
I want to end with this
Go
note.
ahead. Yeah.
My favorite parable in the Bible was when Jesus was talking about being the salt of the earth. and I think it was Matthew that was asking him, "What do you mean by we should be the salt of the earth?" And he gave a lot of examples where he said, "Salt preserves meat. We should be people that preserve the goodness of the earth, right? Salt brings taste and flavor. We should be people that bring color and joy." And it's a lot deeper. Like I was meditating the other day on this scripture, and I was like, the salt of the earth. What do you like? That salt, like the world is nothing without salt. Like just imagine, like nitrogen hydroxide. That is a very important element of salt. So, like whether in leadership or in whatever we're doing, we should look at the characteristics of salt. And I know that sounds weird, and try to
Not at
emulate
all.
that,
Not at all.
right? And I was telling my mom something, like we're talking, and because I have my parents are a bit elderly, and we're talking, and she was saying things like, she was telling us what we should do when she dies, right? Most African parents do this. They tell you where they want to be buried, how they want to be buried. So she was talking about this, and I was like, Mom, please stop talking about death. I don't want
Yeah.
to lose you yet. And she was like, she told me something. She said, death can come at any time. Death can even come to you, which you will never pray for. But the most important thing as humans, what we are always going to remember on our deathbed is the impact we have made in people's lives, the joy we have brought. But most people that have almost died or have had near death experiences, they didn't think about um being heroes or the money they've made. No, the thing that came to their mind was the people around them, the love that they have shared. Like another commandment I really love when Jesus died was love your neighbor as much as you love yourself. And I use this really a lot in my life where I tell people, I say, if I would not like something to happen to me, I will most definitely not do it to you. And that's how I live my life. And I noticed that it's like since I made up my mind to do that, it has been easier to connect with people. It has been easier to understand where like people are coming from. So it's easier to tolerate generally. Like I'll give you an example. There was a day because I'm always very nice and jumpy and bubbly. I was very nice like that, and I was talking to a stranger, and I was like, "Oh, hi, hello," and he cursed at me. He was like, "What the hell do you want?" I was like, "Oh, it seems like you're having a bad day. I'm sorry about that." He was like, "Most people's reaction would be to like react back." I'm like, "Yeah, I'm a human being, and there are days I have bad days, and I react badly, but that doesn't make you a bad person." So remember, if you would forget anything today, remember to be the salt of the earth and to love your neighbor as much as you love yourself. Thank you.
Thank you, Princess. You know, you're such a loser. I couldn't resist. A little bit of joke at the end. Yeah, right. Thank you, everybody, for allowing something like this to be recorded for others to watch and learn from. We are done. And I'm going to end the live stream. And I'm here if you want to talk to me with Maureen. And you know where to find me.